are live, baby. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of First Blood, and it's been a little bit. And sorry for everyone who was in the stream before, but the power flickered. We had some time off. We had my birthday. We had Alan's birthday. He was in Vegas.
Birthday boys.
I've been over in Aruba for a little bit, and we took a little weekend off, but we're back. And we got a weekend full of First Blood coming up, and some good Call of Duty to kind of round out the end of Major 3 qualifiers. But first off, Alan, how you been, man? We haven't caught up. It's been a little bit. We just hopped on and talked for 2 seconds really before the show started.
Yeah. Literally 2 seconds. Yeah. Happy belated birthday again to you, my
Likewise.
I'm glad that we have like this little duo synergy by birthdays being so close together. Just like they know what they say, like goats are born in May. It's just the way it is.
Exactly.
So, yeah, no, my birthday weekend was nuts, dude. Yeah, Vegas was cool. It was actually really funny. I was down there for a show. I was doing a COD Mobile show. And the total time that we were in the studio doing work stuff was like 6 hours. Like it was the lowest key of like work effort that I've ever had to do for a show. And one of the nights we were like, God, what do we want to do? Because like we were supposed to be in the studio for like 3 hours. We were in the studio for like an hour and a half. And we saw Bruno Mars and Silk Sonic were playing at the same hotel that we were at. And we were like, do we get last minute tickets? Like, I don't know. It's kind of expensive. We were on the fence. We went back and forth for a while. We bought tickets. Best show I've ever seen. I would have paid triple, bro. It was so good. I don't know if you're a Bruno fan, but the show was unbelievable. It was so good. So
that's awesome. Yeah. I'm good to hear. Glad you had a good time, and I hope you're we were talking just a second before, but hope you're feeling better. You said you weren't feeling too good, so getting better, baby. That's good. That's good to hear. But I'm glad you had a good time, man. My trip was good as well. It was a good little getaway, and I'm happy to be back and kind of back into the grind and into business. But let's talk about it, man. Let's talk about COD. We had some crazy matches throughout the last weekend, and I didn't get to catch all of them. I'd be lying if I told you I did, just because I was on the beach hanging out with a margarita in hand. But just a few
pictures were unbelievable.
Just a few key points that we kind of spoke about. We obviously have seen. I want to talk about Optic first off to kind of start the show out. Just they've been frying. The dominance has still continued with these guys with ProLoot. I made a jokingly TikTok. My editor was like, well, if they were to continue to fry, like, what is this situation? Like, what if they go to Major 3 and they go on and win? What if they don't lose a single series in the online qualifying stage? And it's like they go on to beat Faze. Optic doesn't lose to Faze, I guess, this year. And I don't know. It just, I mean, we talked about it a little bit. I remember our conversation about 2 weeks ago about it, but just like we talked about how good, if you're an Optic fan, it's not about the ProLoot general conversation. It's about really how good the core 3 is. And I think that again has just continued to show.
I think the biggest thing for me, and we said this a million times, but it just merits being re-hit again, is the culture and the system that's built at this Optic camp is untouchable right now. It's almost a copy paste of some of the stuff that we had seen from Atlanta last year, where it's just like no matter what situations they find themselves in, whether it's people coming off of being ill or whatever it happens to be, they're still finding ways to win. And it's just, I don't know, man. It's crazy to see how consistently dominant this team is in control. Like I feel like every year when we get into talking about third game modes, whoever's the most dominant in third game modes has the biggest chance to win. And Optic just still, they made Atlanta look silly when they played. Was it on Berlin? I think they played on. Like it was just unbelievable how fluid they are in the map. And that's with technically a substitute. Like ProLoot's unbelievable. We all knew this, but it's just, I don't know, man. These guys are on a different level. Like there is a very clear cut number 1 in the league right now. And then who knows what happens beyond that, because I know we're going to talk about like Minnesota and stuff like that, New York on the up and up, but I don't know. They're making Atlanta look a little silly at times, which is crazy to say out loud.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. I can't believe that they've continued to do it with like even just the different substitutes from the Pro-Am to even the online match with ProLoot, even back to the Pro-Am with General. Like these guys are playing with different rosters, and they continue to beat FaZe. So it's very impressive. I'm excited to watch Optic kind of continue to either fry with ProLoot, or I don't know what the situation even is with Illy. Like I don't know if he's going to be back in the mix here soon. If he's planning to play at Major 3, I don't know if he's like grinding and whatnot, but I don't know, man. Things are working for him right now, so hats off to them. They are doing their thing. That is for sure. But
has Illy said anything about his possible recovery date? Because
I haven't seen
his Twitter. He hasn't tweeted. He hasn't tweeted since the beginning of May.
Yeah, I mean, I know Ray made it. The last thing I saw from Optics side was Ray had an update thing basically saying that Perlut was still going to continue to be playing, and the doctor said that Illy was fine, like the injury or whatever, when it continued to get worse, but they just wanted to basically sit him out right now and let him fully recover. And I would assume that like at this point they would make Perlut like I don't think from an Optics standpoint it would be good to put Illy in this late, right? Like you're already 2 weeks into the league's matches for Major 3. You're about to go into final week 3. They've been frying. They just beat Faze. They're showing that they're competitive and can beat everyone. Why even change it at this point? I feel like they should definitely just keep Prelude in for Major 3, see how they do. And it's like, I don't know, on the side of Optic too, like their coaching staff and Optic in general, they're probably thinking, hey, we're still doing really well right now, so it's no stress or rush to get Illy back into the lineup, in my opinion.
No, I think that's a good call. I mean, especially considering the fact that, over the last couple of weeks now, went from Prelude holding his own to, hey, he's doing pretty well, to he just straight dominated Atlanta, bro. Like, it's just he's getting better and better with this team. So I think you're right when it comes to don't change what's not broken right now.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think that if they were to like lose to Faze, it'd have been like, okay, maybe there's a talking point. But it's like for him to come out, I remember seeing an interview. He had like a 1.38 or something crazy in the series, and it was like he didn't even realize he had that big of a impact, I guess, on the game. So super tippable out of him. He's obviously been showing out and doing his thing. I think this is good for longevity of his career and kind of stepping into the CDL too. So I mean, we talked about it like, what was it, 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago? We were like, hopefully he comes in, fries, and kind of doesn't like underperform, I guess. And he's done everything but that. So he's performed, done really well, and he's putting a name in store for him, and he's getting a great following from the Optic fans, that's for sure.
About time, man. He deserves it. He deserves it.
Yep, I am with you. But let's transition things. Optic, they're doing great, and we'll continue to see them later. I think on Saturday they play, I want to say. So we will see them later this weekend and get a kind of better look again to see them kind of round out the online qualifiers for Major 3. But let's talk about Minnesota a little bit too. I've been very hard on them through the last few weeks, and I think that they've come home and they've kind of proved everyone wrong since the pro-am. They've gotten some more practice in with Havoc, and they've really kind of turned around the season, I would say, for Minnesota. This is the best. I think I saw Brian Saint tweet that this is the best online stage qualifiers that they've played in CDL history. He says that they have never been I think he said they've never been like 4-1 or 5-0 ever going into an event. They've usually only been 3-2 or 2-3. So very impressive stuff out of them. They started this. We talked about it a little bit, their schedule, just saying how they needed to do well.
Absolutely.
This was kind of the one that they could do really well, or go be potentially 4-1 or 5-0, and they've done everything but that. I don't know. I guess anything that's caught your eye on this team, or have they kind of just been clicking? It's kind of different from my perspective.
Man, I just have to remind people out there that we're talking about how when we had Colt on the show, and there's that was right in the middle of all the controversy with him choosing not to play for New York and stuff like that, and they're like, oh, Havoc messed up, he stopped playing for New York. You guys are idiots, bro. Like, Havoc is a solid player. I'm telling you, from start to finish. I know that there have been years in the past where it's like he's been great in challengers, he gets pulled back up, or he's on the bench for Florida, gets pulled back in, doesn't fix the problem. I never thought that was a true representation of Havoc. I thought that was more of a representation of just, again, kind of things we've said in the past about certain teams just not really being fully fixable. It's just he's just exactly what you thought he would be. I mean, he's been unbelievable in search and destroy since coming back into CDL again, which is not to be surprising at all. Yep. But it's just how he's kind of worked with Standard to open up the map more has made this team look more comfortable. I am the first person, I think maybe the second behind you, to sit there and say that I'm surprised that just the one player move has made this team turn around this quickly. But it does go to show that the biggest issue was up front in that SMG line. It wasn't necessarily something that was, a core trio problem like we thought maybe, but it was more of the fact of if the SMGs can open up space, it'll get Priesthood attached into space to work well. And that was something that I think was a problem with the role swap, was that didn't really fix it. Both of them don't really have kind of that extra aggressive mindset that Havoc brings to the table. So I think that, hey, if this was the all-time problem where it's just a pacing thing from the front line, now all of a sudden it's looking much better. There are definitely still some cloudy spots, but that's to be expected when you're coming into a new SMG line, essentially. So I don't know, man. I think this Minnesota team, I'm surprised by it. I'll be interested to see if it lasts personally, because I do think that there is potential for this team to kind of falter a little bit, kind of like LAG did, just depending on, if they get a little bit too loosey-goosey in the SMG line that we've talked about with like Hukanasim in the past. So I'll be curious to see if it lasts, but for the time being, I'm pumped for him, man. I'm happy that's working out for him.
Yeah, no, I'm completely with you. I mean, I think right now they've just been catching some fire, to be honest. They've had big wins. Even just looking back at their last 4 matches, they beat Florida 3-1, Toronto 3-2, LA Thieves 3-0, and then LAG 3-0. So, I mean, these are some middle-of-the-pack solid squads that they've beaten. I think at this point they're probably getting a lot of confidence under their belt, but I think today will be a good test for them to see kind of what they can do. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. They will be playing Faze later tonight, so we'll definitely be able to break that one down. But Minnesota, they've definitely been doing their thing. I think, like you said, I think they're getting a footing. Standy and Havoc, I can't speak today, have really been doing well, and I think kind of figuring out the play styles of how things work, and then Attach and Priesta have also kind of been getting more comfortable. So it's great to see. Hopefully they can continue the search and destroy dominance. That's what I wanted to see from them whenever they put Havoc into the lineup. Was the guy brings a lot to the table in SND, and then we obviously knew that Minnesota was a great team in search from the get-go. So they've kind of, it's different to me. Like you take out Major Maniac, who's great at search and destroy, but you add in Havoc, who's amazing at search as well, but he's more of like a playmaker in my opinion. So it's like, it's been fun to watch. I think they have a good kind of balance as a team in search. So I think that will be able to take them far. But like you said, only time will tell to see if they kind of face that adversity or when this honeymoon kind of wears off, I guess you would say.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing is it's exciting for Minnesota right now, but it's one of those things that they're still a team that's fighting for a playoff spot in the overall arc of things, and you haven't played anybody super good yet. So there definitely is some consideration there. And I think you're right. Today is definitely going to be a big indication on how good this team could be. I don't personally expect them to win this matchup, but I think if you can keep it close, I think that's inspiring for sure.
Yeah, no, I'm completely with you. But let's transition things to, I want to talk about this a little bit just because I spoke about them a ton. You and I have jokingly said, like, if Toronto were to maybe not do well, would they potentially put in Scrappy? And I remember seeing the last match of the week, we saw Scrappy actually get to play for Toronto Ultra. Insight wasn't, I think he had food poisoning is what I saw, and couldn't play the game. But I think it's nuts. The kid comes in, he plays New York, the Pro-Am champs, and he comes in and drops a 1.26 with 115 kills in the series, going plus 24 with the most damage on Toronto, and probably never had a single rep with this squad ever, and they go on to beat New York. I mean, it's just, I think, again, this is like another thing for Toronto. It's just sitting. If I had to imagine the coaching staff and like just the whole organization as a whole, they're sitting there thinking like, hey, if stuff hits the fan, like, we literally have this kid sitting in our back pocket.
The thing about Scrappy coming out and performing as well as he did, it wasn't just the fact that he performed as well as he did. He was the reason they won Game 4, Game 5. So it's just like, they very well could have lost this series if it weren't for Scrappy, because he popped off on the second hard point. I remember watching it back, and then the search and destroy, that final search, I think it was on Desert. He just he was taking over the map, bro. Like, he's so confident in his play style. And honestly, for, outside of just the individual skill, we talk about when it comes to, if you're making a substitute, who do you take out? Who do you put in? I just dropped my water bottle everywhere. We're good. It's the fact that when we had talked, about this team in the past, one of the things that we were kind of worried about with this squad was that they weren't playing with any sort of confidence. There wasn't a sort of comfortability that was coming through. They start to hear the records about how they're not playing well. They're blowing these hard points. That starts to get into your mind. Scrappy doesn't care. Like, right? He's got this no lose mentality. He's got nothing to lose whatsoever when he jumps in, and that this inherent individual confidence may be what this team needs to spark themselves back up again, man. I think that there is something to be said about just, being drawn down by the kind of monotonous losses that you've been facing and some of the disheartening losses you've had throughout the year, and then just resetting that mentality with somebody who just has not been a part of that at all. and is not just good, but is also doesn't know how to lose in challengers, because he just came off the win in season 3 of Elite too. Like, this kid just doesn't know how to lose, and I think that's a great aspect for this team that is still, I think, a very solid team as far as the personnel is concerned. I think it's just a mentality thing. They need to just gain some confidence.
No, I'm right there with you. I'm gonna be honest. I'll say it again, and this may be the last time I'll ever say it if something else doesn't happen. But I think you go ahead and put him in, like, no matter what. Like, I think the way he's been performing, like you said, in challengers, like, they haven't lost. I think they're on a 3-peat and something within the challengers scene right now, and he's just continuing to fry. Again, he hops in this series, absolutely destroys. He has just that confidence and swagger, kind of the gameplay. And I think it, like you said, it kind of could spark a lot to this team. And I feel like too, like, it's not like Scrappy plays like a slower AR. Like, he plays more of a flex, like opening up the map. So he's going to make the game easier on his teammates, especially in that respawn mode. And it's like the plus you have from him too. It's like, it's not, he's a bad search and destroy player. Like, the kid comes from the S&D scene. He's very confident and he's a playmaker. So it's like, I don't know. I think personally, he's he reminds me of like what Paul X did for like London, or what he's done for New York. Like, he's an easy fit to any roster. He just kind of fills the gap. He doesn't make the game hard. If anything, it's going to make it a lot easier, and he's just a thorn kind of in the enemy team. So I think, in my opinion, they definitely should highly consider putting him in, and I would assume that that's kind of the play here. Yeah. I think we'll see it very shortly. I think if after the Major 3, potentially that he could be back in. I mean, I know he's spending a lot of time in Toronto with the amateur team right now, and kind of getting things done. So I think he's definitely getting his foot in the door. So excited for him, and I was happy to see him kind of come in and play his first league match and do his thing.
Kind of a perfect storm for him, especially since you mentioned the fact that the academy teams are going to be in Toronto for the next week or so now, getting prepped for the Challengers Open. This gives him a chance to kind of see the team, meet the team, interact with them. You know, it's all kind of coming together. So we'll see, because I don't know. Is he slated to play today? I haven't really been keeping up with it, if I'm being honest with you.
I think Insight said he was better. I mean, I saw him streaming the other day, so I don't think he's going to play today. Okay. But it's definitely something, though, like you said. I think him being there is such a good look for him. Like, and just being able to come in and play that one match and dominate the way he did. Also being in person with all the guys on Toronto, I think it's definitely helping his case to kind of put him in. So I don't know. I can't wait to see kind of what this Toronto team will do and how they'll perform throughout the remaining matches.
Yeah, solid. Well, I hope he does well, man. I really do, because Toronto's in a very interesting spot going into their major.
Yep.
You've got the season 3 champs in Europe and North America playing in your open, and you're on a kind of a little bit of a hot kick right now. You know, so I don't know. It's an exciting time to be a Toronto fan going into their own major.
Definitely. They have so many, like, I said this at the prom. They were like, who do you have winning the event? I'm like, you got to say Toronto, right? They got 3 of 16 teams there playing.
Just odds-wise, dude.
Yeah, it's like, take the odds. You're going to take that all day. Same thing with their major. They got Toronto's winning somewhere, somehow. So definitely cool to see. But let's talk about a little bit, too. You said you wanted to mention it, and I want to talk about it. We saw LA Thieves. They picked up Shane, adding to their coaching staff. I mean, I hope it'll work out for them. I know Shane hasn't really been in the mix for a little bit. I think the last team he was with was London and MW, I want to say, is what he said. I think he tweeted it out. He said he's kind of been on the back burner. I had the chance to talk with him a little bit at the Pro-Am, and I was just like, he was there, but he wasn't under any organization. I was like, oh, I know why you're here, but it's good to see him get in the mix. Hopefully he can help this LA Thieves team and kind of bring a different outlook and like vibe to the team other than what Cat brings.
Yeah, and it's interesting that, I mean, I don't really know Shane all that well, but it's just, that seems like an interesting move when it comes down to inserting in another person on the backside, right? Yeah. Like, that kind of opens up maybe the opportunity for a ton of questions that we weren't even considering before, when it came down to everyone's focus on the role swaps, the players, the rosters, such and such and such and such. But is this something that is kind of more representative of 100 Thieves and what they're trying to do with their Valorant roster, which is change the culture of the camp, right? Like, I know I've been saying that a lot over the last couple of weeks, but that was the whole key of their whole Valorant team change for those that people watch Valorant. And I guess you kind of say the same thing about their league team from, before this last season. Is this kind of an overarching thing now for the organization at whole, that it's not just, we can't just throw money at the best players, we have to start to actually train and build some sort of a backing to where these players can feel like they can go out and take chances and make mistakes and it's okay. Because at the moment, it really does feel like a lot of what teams have done in the past, it's just been, let's just get the best players we can. And it looks like that culture is starting to shift. Is this maybe an indication of that more solidly? Hard to say, but it kind of feels that way at least.
Yeah, no, I'm completely with you. I'm excited to see what he'll be able to bring to the table, and like if he can kind of change the culture of the squad. Maybe, I mean, you never know. Some stuff could change a lot for teams. Maybe it's not a inside the game kind of coach, but maybe it's like an outside the game coach, bringing some vibes, kind of bringing the team morale up, making everybody laugh and kind of have a good time again. Because I will always say this and stand by. At the end of the day, we're playing a video game. You got to be able to have fun and enjoy what you're doing, and not really. You have to take it serious, but you got to also realize at the end of the day, we're moving our thumbs playing a video game. So like if you're not enjoying yourself and kind of laughing and having fun, you're not going to play well and perform. And I've sworn that for 10 years when I've been competing. I'm like, when you lose sight of what you're doing at the end of the day, I feel like everything starts to crumble. So maybe this will help them kind of get back to form, and hopefully they can start making this role swap really show off going into the major.
Because this race for top 8 is super tight, man. It really is. I mean, 6th to 11th is within 30 points of each other. Like it's going to get hot. And for a team that's sitting right in the middle of the pack there, like you mentioned with Thieves, like you've got to hope that this is, because you can't make a full roster change at this point. So is it just a mentality shift? But I don't know. It's an interesting one. We're in the grindstone period though. This is it. This is final stretch time.
Well, they have 2 hard matchups coming up this week too that we can talk about it tomorrow more, but it's going to be a rough week for them, or weekend for them. And these are going to be big standing matches going into the major to see if they'll start in winners or losers. And I don't know, it could get hairy. That's for sure. Like you said, even just for overall standing. So it's going to be nuts.
It's going to be nuts.
Let's talk about the matches today, though. I think that's kind of everything for the bullet point from last weekend that I kind of had written down and thought of. So I think we hit everything. But first match of the day today, we got matches starting again at the CDL. If you guys are watching with us live or over on YouTube, they're starting at 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And we are live 2 hours before the games go live, 2 hours before the games go live, to just kind of break everything down and talk a little bit about it. But we got Paris Legion going up against Toronto Ultra, and I think what I said and saw is that Insight will be playing. Scrappy will not be playing this match, I don't think, because I think Insight is back to 100% from the food poisoning that he was dealing with. But I don't know, man. This is a must-win for the Toronto Ultra side of things, but Paris seems to be that team that's just super annoying to play against. Donnie Temp continues to have these unbelievable series, and it's just like, from the Toronto Ultra, you got to come out, play your A game. You can't sleep on this Paris Legion team, or you'll find yourself in a map 5, or you'll be losing.
That's the thing about Paris, is like, it's very easy for us to say, like, you can't just don't sleep on Paris, don't underestimate Paris. But it really is true, because like they haven't won a game online, so that's problematic with your Paris. But the thing about it is, like you mentioned, like Temp can come through and take over an entire series. The problem about it is it can't just be Temp for Paris. It has to be somebody else. Like, you can't have John and Jimbo suffering through an entire series and hope that you can carry them through the mud. I mean, the only reason I think that Paris even played LAG as close as they did is because the team has been in a blender this entire month and a half. So it's just, it's hard to find ways to root for this Paris team, because I think they're really just shooting themselves in the foot. And they're not playing in the same location. It's just all bad news around the board. Toronto, though, I mean, you have to hope that whatever you learned from Scrappy, whatever kind of mental energy you got from playing with him, is going to be there as well, especially if Insight's playing. So, yeah, I don't know, man. It's hard to find ways to vote for Paris in any instance.
Yeah, no, I completely with you. I just feel like if Toronto come out and just handle business like they should, I feel like this is like a almost guaranteed dub for them. But on the side of Paris, it's just like they've been super competitive. But like you said, you need really big performances. Honestly, Tom Gravity's kind of been doing his thing. He's not really some flashy AR. Temp's had his series here and there, but you need John and Jimbo to step up big time today. Kind of start frying and getting in groove. And they just need to get, like, I don't know, a comfortable map set or map and mode combo that they are just like, this is our map. If we have this in the series, like, we're good, and get that confident, because some series they'll come out, they'll take you to game 5 and they'll fall short, and like, it's weird. These guys win both hard points and they'll lose both searches, or vice versa. It's like, there just doesn't seem to be too much consistency. And I've said it a ton of times on here, and I'll say it again. It's just not fun from the player side of things to be losing this much, or to just be in that kind of whole cycle is what I like to call it. It's just not an enjoyable experience. So hopefully they could come out and get a win today. But as far as map vetoes goes, I feel like this is going to be a pretty straightforward one. I feel like Toronto's going to get away. I think they'll get rid of Bocage. I'm sure you probably feel the same way.
Probably.
Then that kind of the maps will unfold from there. But I don't know. I'm not too confident in Paris's map pools.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because you look at Paris winning the Bocage hardpoint versus LAG, but even outside of that, like, their most played map has been Tuscan hardpoint, and they got smoked by LAG on that map.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like you mentioned, it's hard to kind of put a finger down on where exactly Paris can play that you're going to feel confident in. Even the Tuscan Search and Destroy, for what it's worth, that's been their best map mode combo overall. That is not a guaranteed win for them, because Toronto also very much so enjoys the Tuscan Search and Destroy. So I think it'll be interesting to see what happens. I wouldn't be surprised if Tuscan makes it through the veto process on both hardpoint and search, which could provide an opportunity for Paris. But largely speaking, I just don't feel good about anything Paris online.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to feel anything good about them, period, to be honest with you. Like you said, the only map mode combo that they have positive is Tuscan SND and a Gavutu. They're 7-6 in Gavutu control and 5-1 in Tuscan SND. Everything other than that, they don't have a winning win-loss record on it. So it's hard to be super confident, and then especially this late into the year. I just think it's very, very tough. But again, this is a team that could come out and they could make the series very competitive and take Toronto kind of this stretch. And I honestly would not be surprised if they did that, but fell just short.
Yeah, I mean, I think this has to be, you have to win a hard point here, because that's probably, you would have to argue, Toronto's biggest vulnerability is still in their hard point, even though they're kind of coming off of a good series or two. But I still feel like their hard point is not as locked in as it needs to be. So I think if you're Paris, you have to come on and win map 1. I think that has to be the key. If you're gonna send this to 5, you've got to win map 1.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think honestly, this series for me, there's not too many talking points about it. I feel like we're talking about a team that should just handle business here, and we're talking about the worst team in the league right now, especially online. Yeah. And I don't know. At this point of the year, I feel like it's pretty straightforward in my opinion. So I kind of know where I'm going with predictions. If you just want to hop right into them, I don't think this one has too many talking points. I'll go ahead and kick us off. I got Toronto Ultra winning this one 3-1. I don't think it'll go all the way to 5. I think Paris will keep it competitive, and it'll be a okay series. But overall, I think Toronto's a better team. They look better. And I think that they're gonna have some confidence and swagger from kind of the scrappy spark that they had last week, and they'll be able to transfer that into the match today.
Yeah, I hope so. I'm actually gonna. I was gonna say 3-1, but I would be a little bit different. I'm gonna go 3-0 Toronto here. Okay. I think they're gonna come out with that little bit of extra zest and just take care of business today. They need to, and I think that's the biggest thing too. Is, a win's a win. You like it if you're Toronto, but I think if you could finish off this Paris team quickly, you'll feel really good. Get to the lab, focus on London, make sure you've got yourself a winner's bracket running your own major.
Yep, I'm right there with you, and it'll be a fun one to watch. Hopefully it'll be competitive. Hopefully it's not a 3-0, but it very well could be a hot 3-0 to start the day. But we will see. Time will tell. The clock is ticking. We got an hour 30 until the game starts. So I'm going Ultra. You're going Ultra. 3-0, 3-1. Yep. For the second match of the day, we got Seattle Surge going up against the Florida Mutineers. And I don't know. This is a weird one for me, to be honest with you. This is those series that we talk about all the time, kind of the Vanguard coin flips, in my opinion. We've seen Seattle kind of go through the struggle bus as of late. They really haven't looked too good from Pro-Am Classic to now. They're starting to pick up things a little bit with their big win versus LA Thieves. But I don't know. They're just like a team. It's hard to kind of gamble on, I guess. You wouldn't want to sit there and say Seattle's going to win, because then Florida could just come out and have one of those series that they want to dominate and fry, and they could easily do that. But I don't know, man. It's going to be a weird one.
These are the two most unpredictable teams in the CDL in my mind right now. The thing about Seattle, and you look back to their win versus the Thieves, I thought that was everything that I needed to see to know that Seattle can stay at the level that we once attributed them at the beginning of the year, which is hard to say because now it's almost June. But I think the thing is, Seattle, kind of like LAG, relies on success in their speed and their tempo. I think when you slow the Seattle team down, they start making a lot of mistakes. And the problem with that is Florida is, I would say, one of the slowest teams right now in the CDL, generally speaking. So this one is going to be the difference between, can Seattle get their speed off against Florida, or will Florida keep them at arm's reach? I think if Florida can keep their ARs in play, I think if you can keep them locked in, take away routes from Seattle, Florida can absolutely win this series. It just comes down to will they, because we also know that Florida is an inconsistent bag as well when it comes down to, are they actually going to be able to shoot back today or not? So I think a lot of the series will rely on how well Dave plays. And I think maybe just beyond that, however Skies and Wake run, second AR, depending on the map set, how they play as well against accuracy. I think that's going to be the big difference maker, is accuracy and Sib versus, likely Dave and Wake.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think it'll be a fun one to watch. This one for me is just kind of like a superstar battle. I'm just curious to see kind of who pops off on what side. You really have like the Pred Sib show everyone's a fan of, and then on the flip side you got like Awakening and like Caesar or Awakening, and I want to see a big series out of Vivid. I think if Vivid were to perform today and Fry, like we all know he can, then this Florida team kind of looks dangerous and scary. But it'll be a banger of a series. It's just so hard, like you said, to kind of bet or put all your eggs in one basket with either team, just because both the teams have really good players, but sometimes they want to pop off and have a 1.5 series where they don't decide to die for the day, and it's hard to kind of like bet against that, I guess you would say. But I don't know. It's gonna be a weird one. As far as vetoes go, I know both teams love Bocage hardpoint, so I wonder if we would see that in this series, or if you're.
I would love to see them square off on it.
That's honestly what I'm thinking. I hope they do. I honestly hope they battle it out. Just from they're looking at their map records on all the other maps. I don't know. You think Florida would get rid, or I mean Seattle would get rid of a Berlin, or you think they'll just score up on anything else?
I think Seattle probably gets rid of the Gavudu,
honestly. Really?
Yeah, I just don't think you take chances against that Florida lineup on a map like Gavudu, where obviously they haven't won on Gavudu yet.
They play it quite often, though. It's weird. Like you see it in most of their series. Right? It's so weird.
Yeah, I mean, credit to where credit is due. Like, hey, at least you're playing every map. You're not just hard vetoing something. But I just don't think you play this Florida team on Gavudu hardpoint. I think we probably see Tuscan and then either Bocage or Berlin, depending on Florida's decision. I would have to assume they're going to want to play him on Bocage.
Yeah, that's what I would think. I don't know. The vetoes are weird. Some teams get like delusional confidence, I swear, just from like my competing days. Like a Gavutu, the reason Seattle may be playing it, they may be winning it all the time in scrims, and then they come down and they play it in the match, and then it's like one of those things where they're like, oh, we talk about it all the time. It's like a battle of 60s. You just trade 60 after 60, and it's like, oh, maybe we mess up this one rotation, so we're still confident on the map. We're going to play it again. It's like, I don't know. You never know how these teams are feeling come game day, especially kind of looking at all their stats. Both these teams have really played like every hard point a fair share of time, so it's hard to really predict, I guess, specifically what the vetoes would be, other than we assume that we would see a Bocage, considering both teams love that map.
Yeah, and I think we probably see a Tuscan as well, just based on the rehearsal reps that both teams have on it. Search is going to be, I think, where the series is decided, though. Seattle has been looking really good in their search and destroy over the course of the Pro-Am through to where we are right now, which is great news, I think, for Seattle fans. And I think that is going to be the linchpin to success here for Seattle, personally.
I'm right there with you. It's weird to me to see this Florida team like be super average at search and destroy. Like they're 10-18 through the year. They don't have wins on Bocage or Desert Siege, and that's like, I don't know, it surprises me a little bit, just because when I play with these guys, I feel like they'd always pull stuff out of their bag, like just randomly. Like, I don't know, you'd have Awakening. Like I think in Cold War, Awakening was like the #1 guy for first blood percentage, and like it just surprised me that this team's not really finding success in S&D. But I completely agree with you. I think Seattle, that's the kind of way to get the foot in the door for them, is through that search and destroy. But
yeah,
I think I know where I'm going with this one, and I kind of can see it unfolding right now, in my opinion. Even though I'm pretty sure I put the opposite of what I'm talking about now in the GG breaking
The
point
breaking point check, did you really?
I think I
Oh
did.
shit, you totally did.
Let me see. Yeah, I did. I know exactly where I'm going though, but oh well, is what it is. I may change that real fast. I'm actually gonna change that as we're sitting here talking.
You probably should. I see the 3 dots just pop up immediately in our group chat. There it is.
All right, I had to change that real quick, but I know where I'm going with this one. I don't know if you want to kick it off or me. I'm ready for predictions if you are. I think this one is.
Yeah, I'll take the step here. I'm gonna go 3-1 Seattle here. I'll give Florida some maps, one of the respawns, but I think Seattle either wins this in 4 or in 5, one of the two. I don't feel very good about Florida's chances of winning this series.
Yeah,
it could be tight, but I just with their search being as bad as it is, I think Seattle's got a way out here.
I'll be honest. I think the way the map vetoes are going to unfold, as long as Seattle kind of doesn't ego chow on the Gavutu, like you were saying, I think I'm very confident in both their hard points. I think we've seen them play a lot of really close Tuscan hard points. I could potentially see that being map 1. If they get a Tuscan Bocage, if Florida ego chows them on that, I think this could be a very easily Seattle 3-0. If we see a Bocage map 1, I'm confident in the Sib Pred Max show for them 3 to kind of pop off today and do their thing. And I think, like you said too, they have a big footing in search and destroy, and they have a large kind of map pool. They can play really any search versus this Florida team, and they're going to get the maps that they want, just because Florida has 2 maps that they have not won on yet in search. So very confident Seattle. I'm going hot 3-0 to them.
Okay, I like it. We got opposites.
We will see. It could easily be. This is one of those series where like Awakening doesn't decide to die today, and they just come out and win. And
that's totally
3-0 or 3-1. Exactly. Like you just don't know what you're gonna get from this Florida team, and I feel like I'm having deja vu saying this every single year, because one day they decide to show up to the event and they want to get top 4, and the next time they want to get top 8 or top 12. So we will see how the match unfolds, but. This one's kind of give some good talking points, and I think this could be our best match of the day, in my opinion. We got Minnesota Rocker going up against Atlanta Faze to close out the day, and this is what we were talking about a little bit earlier, right? This is the Minnesota hype train. They've currently won 4 games in a row, and I think, like I said earlier, this is their best win-loss going into the major that they've ever had in CDL history, from what I'm pretty sure Brian Saint said. So pretty crazy. They've had wins over LAG, LA Thieves, Toronto, and Florida. And then today they'll kind of have the true test versus Faze. I guess my question for you would be, do you think that this is going to be a series where kind of, I don't know, Faze just is like, all right, we're done playing around again, and they have their little bounce back series and they just fry? Or do you think Minnesota is going to be able to put up a good fight through the entirety?
I think it's probably going to be Atlanta wiping the floor with it. The problem with Minnesota is still like their respawn, as much as it's been improved, is it good enough to beat the top 3 teams in the game that are all incredible at respawn? Hard to say. It really is. That's where this series will live and die for me, is how close can the Rocker keep the hard points and the control? Because I think for Atlanta's side of stuff, like obviously that's where their most won maps have been, is in the respawn in total. You could even just say the hard point in total. So that's where the problems will lie for Minnesota. But that's been the story of Minnesota since they made this change, is that their respawns were going to have to be where they need to get better, and they have been. This is just a different animal, though. When you're dealing with a team like LAG and Thieves that are still, figuring out their identity, versus the second best team of the game, that is a different level of COD that needs to be played. So the narrow moments that they've kind of snuck away, the little hero moments that they've had over the course of last weekend, that now needs to be locked in. We're not going to make mistakes. You cannot make mistakes versus this Atlanta team. Otherwise, they will just run away with the map. We've seen that time and time again throughout the entirety of this year. So that's where I think my biggest question is. The search and destroys I consider to be, I think, a level playing field for both teams, but it's largely going to be when mistakes are made in hardpoint and control. Are Minnesota going to be quick to recover, or just not make those mistakes in the first place? Because if they don't, Atlanta may just run away with this series really quickly, and that's what I'm really scared of, I think, if you're a Minnesota fan.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. I think today will be the we keep calling it the true test, but I worry about this Minnesota team versus the likes of Faze. I think Faze kind of handled business versus every single team this year. That through kind of the online qualifiers, I guess you could say outside of Optic, they've really beat like everyone. They've
beat the
played, and
brakes off of everybody.
yeah, they don't really struggle versus most of the teams, other than in the grand finals. What they've lost to, who have they? I'm looking at they've lost to Seattle once, Texas, Seattle, Texas,
And then
LAG in the grand
Gorillas.
finals, and then Texas. So yeah, they've lost to Texas basically all of their series losses through this year. But just even looking at their win loss, I think you can maybe give the search and destroy to Minnesota. I mean, it's probably been Faze's weakest mode through, honestly, CDL history. I want to say I feel like that's like where teams can kind of, I don't know, try and make the series competitive is through search and kind of extend it to a map 5. But at the end of the day, teams got to steal a respawn. I think it's going to be very hard for Minnesota to do so. And I'm very confident in Atlanta's map pool. I think they look good across all the maps and modes right now.
Yeah.
And if they were to get rid of a Berlin here versus this Minnesota team in the hard point, they're 9-1 on Bocage, 12-5 on Gavutu, and 10-6 on Tuscan. Like, you are very confident on any of those maps.
Yeah, it's not good news here for Minnesota. This has to be the solution, right? Like, for Minnesota, like, if this is the correct winning formula, it needs to show up today. It sucks to say that because, like, it's still quote unquote early, right? Like, they've played now 5 matches together, but it feels like this is kind of the real tipping point of, is this team going to work out? Is this team going to be a championship contending squad? Not to say that if they lose this, they're going to start making swaps or changes or anything like that, but this is the one that I think that Minnesota fans are really going to have an eye on, and the organization as a whole is going to be like, all right, did we actually make the right moves here? Because you have to be able to at least compete versus this Atlanta team. You can't just get wiped out.
Yeah, I will say on the flip side too that they're probably very confident regardless of the outcome of this, just because they have won 4 in a row. And
you're going to be upper bracket for sure for the major, which is
the best spot you could ever have. Exactly. And I mean, at the end of the day, they're probably looking at this match like, let's go in there, give it our all. We lose, whatever, who cares? But we're still starting in winner's bracket. This is just more of a confidence boost for the side of Minnesota. But I think on the flip side of Faze, this is like, we need to handle business. Our teams are going to start, our teams and players and fans are going to be like, okay, what in the world like is going on with this Atlanta Faze team? But I don't know. I'm very confident and kind of where I'm going with this one. And I think I know who will be handling business. I'm not sure if you're ready for the predictions or not, if you got anything else you want to kind of add to it, but
I am ready for it.
All right, I'll go ahead and kick us off. I think this will be a competitive series to say the least, but I got Minnesota losing this one 3-1. I'll give them the search and destroy. I think with the addition of Havoc, they've looked great in that mode, and they will continue that dominance versus Faze. But I'm just not confident in the respawn modes, in my opinion. I think Faze looks so damn good. I think BZ and Simp and Cell are going to have an absolute heyday in this series, and they will handle business pretty convincingly in 3-1.
Yep, I said the same thing. I got 3-1 as well. Not an exciting day between us when it comes to our predictions. We just have the first 2 matches that have different map counts. We have the same winners all the way through, though. I think, as you see the breaking point predictions, I think everyone's going to have Toronto, Seattle, and Atlanta. It would be a risk-based move to do anything else. These are, I think, the high probability winners, and it feels like it's going to be a pretty run-of-the-mill day. I think the biggest potential upset would be Florida versus Seattle, just due to the fact that both those teams are so unpredictable.
Yeah, no, I feel like I talk about this all the time, but it's just like when you get to this point in the year, you kind of get a good ironing out of like where teams lie. Like we've obviously seen like some good performances from New York as a whole and from Minnesota, but like other than that, it's just like you don't see too many teams kind of go up or down. They kind of just hover around that middle of the pack. So I'm excited to see kind of the matches unfold, but I think that if the day goes as planned, it should be a pretty convincing win for 3 of these teams.
So I just sent you a message in our group DM for Discord.
Yep.
This is interesting. I don't know if you want to bring that up or not.
What is this? Jacob Wolf. He says, breaking, Activision is still owed between $390 to $420 million in team franchise payments for Overwatch League and COD League. Sources tell me those payments have been deferred since 2020 and are being discussed to extend the deferral to 2024 or later. Wow.
So, in essence, and this is full of speculation, but when the Overwatch League expanded to 20 teams and added in 4 major companies from the Eastern Hemisphere, a lot of the speculation around why they had done that was because they were operating at a loss and they needed that money to come in. If that money is still not being paid, I think that this is not, I mean, it's, again, we're going to hear that headline and you're going to think this is immediately bad. This is something that happens in business all the time, where acquisitions and partnerships happen and then the money doesn't exchange hands for some time. The thing that worries me about this is if all of that money is still owed, largely you would figure by the expansion teams that came through for Overwatch League, and probably I would imagine some of the teams from the CDL, this may put a full-on stop at any potential expansions happening next year in Call of Duty League. That's my first reaction to it.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's super interesting. I'm even reading more down on the thread, and it says basically all the teams owe roughly about $22.5 million each. And from my understanding, I heard whenever the league started, it wasn't a one-time payment of like 25 mil. It was a payment plan over 10 years or whatever the plan was. But like you said, it definitely is interesting to see all that, because as far as expansion goes and everything like that, if a lot of money is owed from majority of the COD League teams or whatever the situation may be, that may put a hold on it franchising or expanding on getting more franchises in, or I don't know, who knows where that could kind of unfold to. I'm sure there's a time and place in business going down on the backside of things, but it's definitely interesting to read.
So you got to remember the Overwatch League, their buy-ins were like $50 million. CDL was only 25. But the interesting thing about this is because of the COVID stuff, that's where everything has apparently started to turn. 20 franchises in Overwatch League owe the publisher roughly 6 to 7.5 million each. That's a total of 120 to 150 million. So the majority of this report is actually off of the Call of Duty League teams, who owe an average of 22.5 million out of their $25 million starting point. Because apparently the initial payment of the league was just 2.5 million.
Wow. I wonder too, like how that works as far as like, let's just say, right, like hypothetically, let's just put like Paris Legion, for instance. I wonder what the clause is. Like, we'll never know this. I'll never know it. You never will. But what the clause is if they were to like miss payments or whatever, or didn't pay, like let's say like Paris Legion, who we've talked about, who kind of really doesn't care. What if they like got out of the league and there's a clause or something, if they didn't pay, they're just like booted out, but they just don't care because they don't want to be back a part of it. I don't know. I wonder how that would work. Really curious.
If they're deferring payments, and this is interesting, I guess one of the guys that was one of the kind of overseers of all of this, he's saying that he was looking to waive all outstanding franchise initial payments. So it's like, man, I don't know. This is interesting, but I think if the Call of Duty League has only gotten 2.5 mil from most of the teams, not all of the teams, out of the 25 that was initially bargained for, this may put an immediate stop to any hope for expansions next year.
Yeah, I mean,
you wouldn't take more incurring debt if no one's paying.
They're supposed to have 300 million and they've only gotten 12 plus. What have they gotten? 2.5?
That was the initial payments were 2.5 from each team. So each team roughly owes about 22.5.
Yeah, so that's like almost $270 million that the organizations or franchises owe to the leagues. I mean, that's also probably not like a great look though either from like franchising standpoint. Like, imagine teams were trying to get in or see all this or whatever it may be. I mean, I feel like it's a interesting look. Imagine CWL's back, Intel.
Yeah. I mean, the thing about it is when you're incurring that much outstanding balance, you wouldn't just dissolve the league because then everyone just gets away scot-free, right? Like, you just operated at a loss for 3 years.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's going to be very hard to make it. It's been a very weird year, like the last few years, just because the league, it happened. We went to franchising, everything happened, whatever. Then we got hit with COVID. Yeah. We got hit with this worldwide pandemic that we've never experienced before in anyone's life. And like, I don't know, it wasn't a good start to kind of the CDL franchising. So like, we had to operate from home. No one got to operate events. et cetera, et cetera. So I mean, realistically, like that big of a buy-in in an online league is probably not very profitable. I would just go right out and say
No.
that. Just because you can't do ticket sales, you're not selling merchandise at events, you're not selling food and ticket costs. The list goes on, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't know. I wonder if it would be one of those things where someone eats cash and it were to kind of go back to the old ways. I would not be surprised if eventually down the road we saw kind of the CWL make a return and the COD League was kind of disappeared. I think, in my opinion,
we'll see.
We will see what happens. But in my opinion, I think it would be incredible for COD to kind of have like organizations be able to come in, come out when they want. There's really no like tie to it. I think it's great for Call of Duty. I mean, I've told you this a million times. I love pool play, seeing more organizations. A player gets, imagine the storylines like we would have this year. Clayster gets dropped from New York, and then he just goes on to get like another franchise. Say like Cloud9 comes in, Clay gets picked up, he picks up this Challengers team, and then gets to play against like New York and
Imagine
all the other, like same thing with Major Maniac, all these Neptune, all these players who have gotten benched, get a hop back on teams and kind of make their way for I don't know, the year. I just think I'm such a fan of that. I've seen it for 8 or 9 years of my competitive career. So definitely interesting though. I'm glad you brought that up. It brings up some interesting topic points to kind of see how that unfolds over the next few months.
And yeah, Shy Hawks, that is split out over the payment terms apparently are varied between the Overwatch League and the Call of Duty League. But the deferment that they were looking at could possibly extend to 2024 is what it said. So if that's the case, you know, if that is indeed what they're going to go with, that means that we're not going to see the Overwatch League or Call of Duty League dissolve until at least that point, right? You stick around until you can collect your payments, but
correct. Unless
we'll
like we don't know what it looks like on the backside of things either. Like you said, if a organization or company were to not pay, who knows what the punishment or I don't know what that looks like. So only time will tell. It'll be crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they they don't have to pay everything up front. There's no way 12 organizations or 16 organizations just have $25 million laying around. They're just like, hey, let's pour all this out and hope it works. That's definitely not how it goes. I would be curious to see too if like some of these teams signed an agreement for less than the initial plan, just to like fill spots. But who knows what it all looks like.
And the thing too that you have to keep in mind is this could be a strategy by the owners as well to wait until the acquisition of Microsoft as well. That could be something too. So everyone's kind of pulling along, dragging their feet, so to speak, I guess.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people have probably been in talks on the backside of things, and again, conversations that we haven't heard or I've never even heard. So,
if you want to read it, Hawks, there's the article in the Twitch chat for you. It's worth a read. We're just kind of summarizing and taking a synopsis of the key points that we're reading it through. It's not at all saying that like, oh, Overwatch and Call of Duty are owed this much money and it's all bad. It just kind of gives you a lay of the land of what's going on, it's just interesting because this is something that I don't think anyone's really talking about, obviously.
Yep. Definitely. Is there anything specifically you wanted to talk about or hit at, or you want to take chat questions? You want to call it a shorter one today? It doesn't really matter to me. I don't know if there's too much COD stuff really to kind of wrap. Like, I don't know. I feel like some of the questions we've had are pretty similar to what we've spoke about a little bit. It's up to you.
We could at least hit, season 3 challengers results. We talked about Ultra Academies in both EU and NA winning. Talking about Major Maniac, he finished second with Neptune, Bracken 2 Real. They played really well throughout this last season. And then the former Stallion squad, Kaiser, Cryptic, Ulysses, and Mine finished third. And then Mock, Hollow, Jintroid, and Venom finished fourth in NA. Both of the Spanish rosters finished number 2, number 3 in EU, and then Denza's team finished fourth in EU. So there's that, if anyone's interested in that information. I don't know who's going to the Ultra Open out of all the major teams from Europe and North America. I hope a bunch of them are, but I don't know if we...
What's the price? Is it 75K? Is it the same as Minnesota?
I think it's 75K.
I saw 75K. I just forgot what the Minnesota Open was. I didn't know what the prize pool was for that. Because I definitely saw 75K somewhere. But I mean, if some of these organizations don't have like there's not all these amateur teams have like a backing from like orgs, right? So like some teams may be paying for out of pocket or whatever. It's a little bit different than what it used to be back in the day.
I imagine we'll get all of the top 4 teams from Europe because one of them's Ultra Academy. The other Spanish roster is Rocker Academy, so they're going to send them. And then I know for a fact Team War is sending their squad. So I think that's the question will be, is this AIM esports team, who I've never heard of before, are they sending Journey's team? Which I assume they would be, just because I don't see a reason why Journey and them would sign if they weren't going to. So we'll probably get at least the top 4 from Europe that's going to be there. It'll be hard to say if anybody else from Europe is going to make the trip. I think like the ACCL, which is like one of their kind of self-sufficient tournament organizers, I think they put together money to send a team, but I'm not sure which team it's going to be. So I think we're going to get 4 or 5 EU teams. And then North America, a lot of the organizations, like you mentioned, are just kind of small. Like Shady Kings, which is what picked up Major Maniac and Neptune's team. I think they're sending them, I would assume. Electrify Steel will send Cryptic's team. It looks like Destroy the Odds picked up Mock's team, so it looks like they're sending them. So, I mean, it looks like there's going to be a couple of low-level orgs that are going to pick up squads and send them. So, we'll see.
I saw someone mention in the chat, what are the chances New York don't make champs? Do they need to win an event or get top 2? I completely forgot, like, I knew this, I just drew a blank, but, like, that they didn't get any points from that Pro-Am win, and it was basically theoretically nothing other than cash. And, like, just looking at the standings, like, there's a high chance that they don't make champs. I mean, they have 60 CDL points. They're currently sitting at 11th right now in the standings. They need to play well, and they need to do good in the online qualifying matches and even at Major 3. I mean, you got a tight ride from all the way from literally 11th to top 5. You have a, like, 30-point difference is 11th to 6th, all the way to Minnesota Rocker. So anything could change. The Major is going to be crazy because obviously 4 of these teams will start in losers bracket and could easily bomb out quickly. So yeah, there's a high chance that they do not make champs, even with their kind of performance. They had that honeymoon period at a good time, and it was great for them to win that Pro-Am, but unfortunately that does not matter for the CDL standings. It was just cash.
No. So they're not going to win against Optic, I don't think. I think that's probably a fair bet. That's their last qualifier match. They would need to finish somewhere in the top 6, I think, to have a chance, because top 6 is only 20 points. So if you can get to top 4, you get 30, and then you're sitting in a decent spot to be competitive going into that last major. But you can't finish lower than 6th if you're New York. You have to finish top 6.
Yeah, I mean, they have to outplace at least like 3 or 4, probably 3 of the teams that they're kind of in the running with. Otherwise, they're just never, like, they're not going to be making forward progress at all. Like if they were to sit there and place top 6, but let's say Florida, LA Thieves, and Seattle all place top 6 as well, like that doesn't help them at all because they have to outplace them to gain more points than them.
Exactly.
So it's like they're in a weird spot. They got to fry. And will they be starting in winners or losers of this? Is it dependent upon that match? I forget. I'm gonna look.
I think it depends. So they're going to probably finish 2 and 3.
Yeah, they're 2 and 2 right now.
A lot of people's minds. Yeah, so they'll probably finish 2 and 3. And well, let's see who's around them. They would need.
Someone said Easy Mac said if they don't win a map versus Optic, they start in losers.
I mean, that's dependent on like what happens with like London and those teams, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
At the moment, LA Thieves, London, Gorillas, and Paris could all lose their final matches, and it wouldn't make a difference. So I think it just depends on what happens with those bottom teams at the moment.
Yeah.
So as it stands right now, if everyone below them loses out, Thieves, Ravens, Gorillas, and Legion, it wouldn't make a difference. They would probably finish in 8th place, and they would be in the winners bracket. But
it will be interesting to see how it unfolds. Like you said, it's a tight run for kind of champs, and even the whole everywhere from 11th all the way to 6th, like I was saying, is a very tight run. So if the LAG woes continue to, they could maybe be in that conversation. They're not too far ahead of Minnesota Rocker, but Minnesota doing well over the last few weeks has helped them a ton. Them going 4-0 gained them 40 CDL points and put them at 90 being at top 6 right now. So huge shout out to them. Definitely some big ups and big improvements. So
here's just for fun fact. New York has their stage 4 qualifier matches. They've got Florida, LAG, Seattle, Texas, LA Thieves. They could go 4-1 in their stage 4 qualifiers too. So
would be an interesting one. But it's gonna be nuts. I'm excited to watch it. And I see some questions too. We talked about this a little bit. When Illy comes back and Optic isn't playing well, will they start Prelude the rest of the season? I mean, if we'll see how that plays out. I mean, I don't know. Right now, like I said, Optic's playing well. They probably won't change anything going into the major. There's no really reason to right now. They'll probably keep it the same, and then it'll be interesting to see how they perform on LAN with Prelude and what they will be able to do. And then I'm sure they'll make a decision from that point forward if Illy's able to play or not.
I feel that. I mean, it's kind of the same situation we talked about with like Spart and the Gorillas. Like, how do you run the line between this is the team that's going to get us a championship versus this is the team that we actually want, right? And I think if you're Optic, you're a little bit more solid on the whole Illy situation comparatively to the Spart Gunless situation because of the results that you've had throughout the year.
Correct. I completely agree with you. Alan, I got to use the bathroom, so I'm going to wrap this one up unless you got... we'll go ahead and wrap it up, and then we'll do a longer one tomorrow when we'll have more COD to kind of talk about. But I hope you guys enjoyed the show. We got some good conversations in about COD today, and yeah, it was a fun show. So I appreciate you guys. Make sure you go show some love over to Alan. He's not feeling well, but he came on and did the show today, so he's the absolute GOAT for that. We'll have a lot of Call of Duty to watch and talk about tomorrow, like I said. So if you guys enjoy the show, make sure to come by tomorrow. Maybe we'll do some breakdown of the gameplay and whatnot and kind of do a little deeper dive into the show. So appreciate you guys. If you guys are over on YouTube, make sure to subscribe. If you guys are watching with us live on Twitch, make sure to please follow the channel. And we appreciate you guys. Love you guys. And we will catch you guys in tomorrow's episode of First Blood. Peace.